Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Round Two podcast. This is your host, Nikki Corbett, and I am super excited to talk with you again. Today, I have a guest, another person from my college years. His name is Wes, and he is coming to us from Washington State. And this is exciting because he is another person who I have not seen in the flesh in probably 20 plus years. But another one of the, thanks to social media, we've managed to stay in touch. And he was excited about the podcast and agreed to come on and talk with me. So Wes, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks for having me on and thanks for reaching out. I'm Wes Jones. Like Nikki said, we are old friends from college, University of San Diego, the Toreros, and I am originally from Bellevue, Washington. That is where I am born and raised. And then I spent about 10 years down in San Diego. And that's where I know your lovely host. And I've been back in the Bellevue, Washington area since about 2006. Bellevue is a suburb of Seattle, Washington, but has really turned into its own, its own city, its own metropolitan area, and is just on an absolute tear as far as job growth and tech. And that's where I'm located now. And I'm looking at beautiful gray skies on a Friday afternoon. So yeah, happy to be here to break up the monotony of the day and the rain outside.
Awesome. I actually don't think I knew that you were originally from Washington. I was going to ask you how you made the move up there, but I guess
went back home.
Yeah. And as you were talking about Bellevue, I was thinking, gosh, I wonder how many times you've given that spiel, given that you're having a great real estate career up there. You probably could say that in your sleep.
Yeah. No, it comes pretty natural at this point.
Awesome. Well, so you, aside from being a realtor, being a husband, a dad, you have recently decided to make a pretty big change in your life. And that was one of the reasons why I reached out to you, because I saw your transformation happen over social media. So, you went on a significant weight loss journey. So why don't you talk about that? Like, what got you there? What made you decide it was the right time, the right place, and all the great things that you've learned along the way?
Yeah, no, it's really funny because I was actually, I'll throw you back to another college story. I was down in Austin, Texas, a couple months ago, and I called up an old buddy that I played football with at USD, and he's not on social media, and had not seen him since the college years. And I was like, hey, I'm in town, like, we got to catch up. Let's go grab dinner. And he pulls up, picks me up, and I open the door, and he goes, dude, you look exactly the same. And I started laughing, and I said, you're one of the few that has said that. Right. Do I have a story for you? And, health and fitness was a big driver and a good portion of my life. I can remember kind of falling in love with working out in the weight room probably my freshman year of high school. So I was a football player, and that's kind of what I did. And my dad wanted me to do other things, play other sports, but I just kind of threw that away. And he's like, you are either getting a job or you're doing something else. And I said, hey, what about this weight room thing? I think football is working out for me, and I really like the weight room. What if I was in there every single day? And he's like, that would work for me. So I did, and that is something that worked out for me. And I was not University of San Diego is not a football powerhouse. It's Division I AA, but it's still it is probably a bigger school than I should have been at. I probably shouldn't have been at playing college football, but it was that work in the weight room, to be bigger, to be stronger, to be the best version of yourself, that allowed you to be that. And so I feel like, probably from, I don't know what age that is, 13, 14 till about age 30, that was a big driver in my life. So, I was one of those first guys, taking supplements and working out, year round, all the way back then. And then, the priorities change. I got married. I got heavily involved in work. The real estate market crashes in 2008. And I just got out of that rhythm. That was no longer a focus. What had been, a focus for my entire life, fell off probably in the matter of about a year or two. And, those 5 to 10 pounds a year that you gain when you're not watching out for things, that added up over a 10-year period. And, spent probably, 30 to 41, 30 to 42, being a bigger version of myself, a less athletic version of myself. And when I looked at pictures, it was not the person, or even in the mirror, when you look in the mirror, you look at pictures, it's like, do I really look like that?
Right.
I'm like, that's not the me that I remember. And it's not the me that I feel like, here, in my head. And I always wonder, I'm like, is that guy still in there? I'm like, I feel like the guy's in there, but like, is he ever going to be there physically? And, it was one of those things you always try. It's hard. I mean, I went through 10 plus, probably more like 12 years, of this being constantly on my mind. And, I was sharing you before we started, like when I was playing college football, I was about 225, 230 pounds, super fit, jacked, and then, you're not doing that anymore. You're a little bit less, but I think at my heaviest, I got up to probably 290 pounds. And that's when I stopped getting on the scale, because I didn't like the number. So what do? You stop getting on the scale.
Yeah.
Just stop.
And you say things like, oh, I don't weigh myself. I go by how my clothes feel, or I only weigh myself when I go to the doctor.
Right. Yeah. I don't. Yeah. I go by how my clothes are fitting. Guess what? They weren't fitting. They weren't fitting. They weren't fitting at all. And I can remember doing a quick, at that point when I got to my heaviest, I'm like, okay, this is too much. And was able to drop about 20 to 30 pounds. And then the last 5 or 6 years, I've been floating in between 260 and 270 pounds. So that was, that's the weight that I've been the last 5 years, and the last 5 years that, you and I have been communicating, kind of, on social media. And then it's something that had always been on my mind, but I was not in any type of routine for physical exercise. I was exercising, but I wasn't not in any type of routine. And it certainly was not enough. And I didn't have any type of diet. And when I was in great shape, from all of those years, I was in control of my diet. And I had let both of those things, I was not in control of either of them.
Well, and sometimes too, you have the luxury of youth on your side as well, right? So, I mean, in college,
that metabolism,
right? So you can be fit and strong and doing all those things, and still going to fraternity parties on the weekend and eating burritos from all of our favorite burrito shops down there, and not paying the consequences like we do now when you have to sit down and work and be at a computer and be in your car.
Absolutely. No, it's not like it used to be. You have to be a lot more conscientious of what you're doing. So, there was a moment, this had been on my mind, and I'm like, I got to do something about this. And I got kids. I've got 2 sons. I don't just have kids. I've got boys. Yeah. And one of them looks just like me. I mean, he's like the DNA of my oldest one and me, it's like a 90% match. And I'm just like, I knew that I was not a great example. I knew that I was not the best version of myself. I knew that I was not showing up to other people in my personal life and in business the way that I knew that I could. And I'd kind of always thought, I'm like I remember back, into my 20s, like great shape in the working world. I'm like, that guy was funny. That guy was fit. That guy was kind of a badass. Like that was kind of the best version of myself. Like, what if that person was out here today? What if that person was selling real estate? And it was like, man, I'm like, that would be really something, I could tackle anything. Still didn't do anything about it, or I should say didn't do enough. You'd make progress. That's why you yo-yo. We were talking about it. I was between 270 and 260, and it was hard to get down to 260 and make progress. And then I'd come back up. It's because I lacked any type of routine, habits and consistency. And I remember seeing a photo of me from the 4th of July. So this would have been 2021, 4th of July. And granted, I was wearing this t-shirt that was already too big and boxy. So it's not flattering.
Wasn't doing you any favors.
It was not doing me any favors to begin with, but I had not done myself any favors. And that was at that 270. And I was like, okay, enough is enough. And I remember I had an appointment with with a doctor, and I was complaining about this. I'm like, I eat pretty good. And, I'm kind of exercising, and like, it just shouldn't be this hard. He's like, asking me a couple questions, like what I'm eating, this type of stuff. And then he's like, looks me right in the eye and tells me something, I'm paraphrasing, something to the effect of, if what you're telling me is true, and this is what you're doing, you are simply eating too much. And you are, and you are not burning, you are consuming more calories than you are eating. And it is, it's not this simple, but I'm going to tell you this simple. It's calories in versus calories out.
Calories out, yeah.
And he broke this down for me. And are we 3,600 calories for a pound of fat?
I think it's about that, 36 to 3,400, somewhere in there.
Yeah, it's 33 or 36, something. He breaks it down, he does the math, and I'm like, well, duh. I've done this. When I stopped playing football after college, I got my personal training license. I was like American Council of Exercise, like certified, like all like, I'm like, this is stuff that I've always known. But I also knew that controlling the diet was probably going to be the toughest thing that I've ever done. And I was not ready for it up until that point. And then he said it so simply that it made sense to me. And I was like, he's absolutely right. Like I am eating too much, and I'm not in any type of routine. And like, if my number, is if I'm burning 3,000 calories a day, doing what I'm doing, I am probably eating 3,500, or whatever it is. So no shit. I put on the weight and that it's not coming on, because you do the math.
Yeah,
it is.
It's so tough to be. Well, there's a couple of things, like, as you're saying this, and also like as somebody who has been heavier, as someone who has yo-yoed, and as someone who knows this, I also get it. It's like, I know, I look at myself in the mirror sometimes and I'm like, what to do, what's going on.
Yep.
And I think that there's a couple of things, like, number one, that people aren't as realistic about, like, portion sizes.
100%.
As they should be, right? I remember the first time I love peanut butter. Anybody who knows me and who's known me forever, I have some college friends who still will laugh and be like, oh my God, do you still love peanut butter so much? The answer is yes, I love peanut butter.
Guilty, had a scoop this morning.
Right? And I literally, but do you remember the first time you actually were consciously aware of what a serving size of peanut butter is, and then you think, holy shit, I have been eating way more than that.
I just had 5 servings.
5 servings. So that's one thing. And then I also think that people grossly underestimate, and I know I've been guilty of this, grossly underestimate how many calories they're consuming in alcohol on a weekly basis, and how that impacts their overall caloric consumption and burn throughout the week. So it's like those two things are so incredibly important to pay attention to, especially when it comes to even healthy fat, right? Like, yes, avocado is super healthy fat, but like, you can't eat 2 whole avocados every single day.
You can have too much of that too. You still got, you still got to burn it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there was, it wasn't like a single moment, but it was a series of moments that, kind of dominoed, and said, okay, I knew this all along. I knew what I needed to do, but I needed to hear the right thing at the right time. And I did. And what I did is I started really looking at it, like, I started writing down everything that I'm eating. I'm like, holy shit, I am eating too much. I'm like, and when you actually write that down in a journal and you go back and look at it, you're like, man, I'm like, okay, again, no wonder I'm here. But
it's so easy to like grab like a mini candy bar or a little snack throughout the day and then completely forget that you've even had it.
Yep.
And then maybe dinner time rolls around and you're like, oh yeah, I'll have dessert tonight. Like I had a salad at lunch and I had like a yogurt and a banana for breakfast. But then you forget that you had like 5 Reese's cups or whatever you did mid-afternoon, because it's just, we're moving so fast. We're doing so much. There's so many things on our minds.
It is. It's true. And, so I started writing it down, and then I was like, okay, what can I do? Like, what can I eliminate? What are my triggers here? And like, I don't know if there were necessarily any food triggers, but, as we were talking about it, like alcohol was something that I recognized very quickly was not helping me achieve any type of goals, and, when I, as here I am at 42, 43, well, however old I am.
However old you are.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm going to figure that one out when I get home. Your body processes it differently. So not only like, was alcohol, making my next day slow or painful, it was also one of the things that I could point to, like, hey, even if I have a couple beers, or a couple of drinks, that's when the floodgates would just open as far as eating choices goes. I'm not going to order the chicken wings or the second round of chicken wings when I'm not drinking. But anything, if you're out with some friends or you're watching the game, whatever, you have a couple beers, that stuff, those decisions, self-control flies out the window. So I'm not sober, but I eliminated alcohol, from the get-go. And that is something that helps me tremendously. So one, I started sleeping better.
Yeah. Oh my God. And sleep, I feel like sleep is one of those things that's finally starting to be talked about much, much more often. But it's also one of those things that so many people don't realize the true importance of, and how if your sleep is off, like it can so quickly, so negatively impact every other aspect of our lives.
I had always been one of those, like, and I can get by on less sleep. And when, my wife, she sleeps quite, probably 2 or 3 hours longer than I do. And I used to always give her a hard time, and I just don't anymore because I'm sleeping more. And it truly all is connected.
Oh, 100%.
Getting good sleep, whether that's 6.5 hours or 8.5 hours, everybody's different, but getting what your body actually needs, to recover, to, eliminate less stress. So, alcohol, I took that out. I'm sleeping better. I am no longer having, the munchies when you're eating. I'm no longer having the hangovers the next day, or even it's not a hangover. You're not feeling great. Like, what do you want to do? Like what's the first thing you want to do? You're not feeling great after some alcohol. Like next day, you're like, oh, I want that breakfast burrito, or I want that greasy sandwich, breakfast sandwich, whatever it is. Because you're thinking, oh, well, I got to soak this up. Well, guess what? There's no soaking it up anymore after north of the age of 25. A Gatorade and a breakfast sandwich or burrito is not going to do it. You are still going to feel like trash.
Totally.
And now you've just, put a 2,000 calorie, gut bomb, in your stomach. And, that, you've set yourself back from all of the work, that you've made, up until that point. So just kind of the removing the alcohol, figuring out what true portions were. I started counting calories, and not you're like, oh, I'm only, going to eat 2,000, calories a day or whatever it is. But like, I'm actually looking at this. What is the calories in a portion size? What is the portion size? And understanding all of this and realizing that, hey, it had been a free for all for so long, but no longer. And then, just really, got control of the diet, not a diet per se, but getting control of portion control, high protein, less sugar, I still want my treats, and it's hard with the little kids with that, stuff around, but it's a lot of protein. It's a lot of vegetables. It's a ton of water. It's a lot of protein shakes, and a lot of, I think portion control. I'm not sure if I said that.
Well, and I
So
think too, one of the things that, whenever I talk about food, because food's a huge part of my life. I'm a huge foodie. I love to cook. I love to be in the kitchen. But I also have always been of such the belief that, what works for me isn't necessarily going to work for you.
100%.
And that's why, all of our bodies are so unique and so individual. And there is a level of trial and error. And
Yeah.
even as we continue to grow and change and age, something that worked maybe for me 2 years ago might not work for me in 2 years, but it's like you have to take the time to figure
Yep.
out what is it that works for me. And I have some friends who have been like wildly successful on vegan diets. For
Yeah.
me, my body physically craves chicken and beef and
Yep.
fish and all of those things, but some other people don't, and they look phenomenal, and they take great care of themselves, but without those types of foods. So it's like, I think we all owe it to ourselves to take the time to figure out, what kind of exercise does my body not only respond to, but what do I enjoy? Because that's the other key piece of it. If you aren't enjoying what you're eating and you aren't enjoying what you're doing for activity, you're not going to continue doing it.
You can do it on the short term, but there's no way that it can become a way of life long term or become a habit. Because if you don't like something, very difficult to change, at least at this point in life, to change your mind. Oh, I do actually like this.
Yeah.
So focus on what you are good at, or focus on the things that you like, that type of exercise, or the types of foods, and make good choices for them. But you're absolutely right. It's not a one size fit all. And you're saying you got to try different things, and things that have worked in the past may not work for you forever. Like there was a while where I was doing a ton of intermittent fasting, and I feel like that got me through a plateau that I was at. And I still really like the concept. And that was another one of my problems, is like, hey, late nights, like even if the alcohol wasn't there, it's like late night snack. Man, you can open up that fridge door and that late night snack becomes a second dinner while the fridge door is freaking still open. And you're just like, oh my God, there goes 700 calories.
Right.
And then it's sitting in your stomach all night when you're sleeping. Your body has nothing other to do. They're not using it as energy. It's got nothing to do but to turn that into fat. So I still love the concept, of shutting it down earlier, like sleeping, going to bed on an emptier stomach. So your body's got a chance to maybe, burn the fat that you've already got instead of something that's just sitting in your stomach. But I pushed it up to there's a while where I was going 16 hours a day. And it definitely pushed me through. But there was a point where I'm too hungry.
Right.
I think for me, I'd still love the concept, but it's not something I'm doing as long. So it's if I can go 12 hours, basically if I am shutting it down earlier in the evening and I am pushing breakfast back a little bit farther, if I'm in that 12 to 14 hour window, that's a win. And that's manageable. And I think that's something that's manageable for me for life. And I think that is as I've been thinking more about this, it's both in my fitness and in my nutrition and in my business, what can I do for the rest of my life? And creating those types of habits. Cause it's great that I can, run and, I can still lift, heavy weights right now. Am I gonna be able to do that in 30 years? I mean, I hope I'm around in 30 years, but probably not, but it's just, it's stuff that, it's sustainable. I think about sustainability.
And I love that. I love that you said that, because I think that, habits are so important, and they're what drive our day to day. And I mean, I am a naturally routined person. And so, I mean, I remember back in April, I really decided, okay, I've been partying too much. I need to make some changes. And I've always been a person who likes to work out in the morning. So I said to myself, okay, you know what? Let's get back to those early morning wake ups. So I set my alarm. I had it go off. It goes off at 5:30, and now I'm so used to it. And I have to say, I go to bed excited to get up because I like my morning routine that much. I'm at a point now where I'm like, oh my gosh, I really love my morning routine. I get up, the coffee's ready. I found a creamer that I love that has good things in it that it makes me happy, and I'm like, this tastes good. So I mean, just the littlest things though, and I mean that might sound so like, oh my God, your coffee creamer makes you happy. But it does, because then I'm looking forward to it. I'm enjoying it. I like the way my days are starting. But I think that sometimes you just have to start a habit, even if it sounds daunting or seems like, I mean, I think before I did that, I was probably waking up around like 7 or 7:30. And I'm like, dang, I'm
So
going
much
to get up
wasted time.
so much. And then I'm like, dang,
So
I'm going
much
to get up when
wasted
it's still
daylight.
dark. Like
Yeah.
it's still dark. But then in the summer rolls around and I'm like, yes, this is where I thrive. It's light
Right.
when my alarm goes off. But, really getting into these habits that work. And then you see how you're setting yourself up for success for every step of the way throughout the day, and just continuing to do that is so
100%. Like I was always, we tell ourselves so many things. Like, this is the way that I'm a night owl. I have a hard time sleeping. It's hard to get up early. And those those are things I've told myself, a lot of my life. And I did have a hard time sleeping. You know what? Well, comes to find out, when you drink alcohol, you're going to have a hard time. You're going to have a harder time going to sleep. You're not going to be rested. If you are watching TV before you go to bed, if that's the last thing that you do right before you go to bed, you're going to have a harder time with that. If you've got your phone, if you've got your screen right in front of your face for that last 30 or 60 minutes, like, oh, I can't sleep, I'm just scrolling. You've got that blue light right in your eyes. Well, you're probably not going to bed for another hour or two, after that. So I made a lot of those changes too. I was always going to bed an hour or two after my wife, and I'm going to bed before she is sometimes,
Nice.
15, 30 minutes before. Like, I'm not watching TV very, very often. As the last thing that I do before I go to bed.
Sure.
One of the biggest game changers for me is putting my phone in the bathroom.
Oh, that's great.
So I'm not
just picking it up and
And so those are some of those are the little habits. And then, I was guilty of this morning, but what I try to do, most days, is also not get on my phone first thing in the morning and not scroll. And, it's super easy for me. I'm like, oh, I got to check to see if anything came in,
Right.
I'm a real estate broker, residential stuff comes in overnight. But let's be honest, I'm like you, I'm up at 5:30. What fire am I going to put out at 5:30 in the morning?
Exactly.
There's no difference. If I get back to that person at 5:45, or if I get back to them in AM, or 8:15, they're going to see it at the same time, as well.
Yeah.
So, I could be putting out fires thinking that I'm doing my job, but really it's just providing resistance for me to get my morning routine, started.
Well, and then what do you think too about, the things that we tell ourselves? Like, as you were saying a few minutes ago, and it got me thinking about this, about how, oh, I'm a night owl, or, oh, I don't sleep well, or, oh, I do this. I think that there is a lot of power. And one of the things that I've been focusing on a little bit more this year is like manifestation and verbalizing different things, whether it be my goals, or whether it be, just pumping myself up before a big meeting where I have to present, or, whatever it is. I mean, and I'm thankful. Times like that are thankful when I'm wandering around my house talking out loud. I'm thankful that I do live alone, right? But I do believe that there is a lot of power in the things that we tell ourselves. So it's like, like you were saying, if you're sitting there, if you're telling yourself every day, oh, I don't sleep well, or are you telling that to people in conversation, then you're probably not going to sleep well.
It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Exactly.
Because those are the things that we tell ourselves. So when you brought this up, there's two things that I go back to from some of my real estate training, and my national brokerage is Keller Williams, and they have a big saying is that what you focus on expands. If you are focusing on not being a good sleeper, or that you are a night owl, or you just can't get up early in the morning, well, you're telling yourself that that's the way that it is, and then it's going to be that way. And then another one that they say is thoughts become things.
Yep.
It's you said manifestation. I say thoughts become things. It's the same thing. It's the exact same thing.
Yeah.
It's what we tell ourselves. So we can tell ourselves things positive. We can tell ourselves negative things, or we can tell ourselves positive things.
Right.
And even if you don't really believe in that, like, what if you switched your thinking, or what if you switched the way that you talk to yourself? You're probably going to see a positive change somewhere.
Well, I love that. I love that you said that about the way you said it, and the way that you talk to yourself, because one of the things that I've tried to focus on a lot more lately is my self-talk. and
Hmm.
and when I catch myself saying, I mean, and we all, I know we're all guilty of it, we can be so nasty to ourselves.
Of course.
And then it's like, I've been stopping myself and saying, would I say that to a friend? Would I say that to my mom? Would I say that to a coworker? And it's like, absolutely not. And like, when I'm standing in the mirror, like picking myself apart for X, Y, and Z, would I ever do that to a friend? It's like, no. It's like, you see your friends, you're like, oh my gosh, you look so great today. And then, oftentimes the response is, oh gosh, thanks. I just feel so blah, 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 blah. And it's like, no, like, let's just say thanks. Like, that's another thing I've been trying to work on too, is when somebody gives me a compliment, to just say, thank you. Instead of like, oh, thanks, but no, 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 or deflecting or feeling badly that somebody's complimenting you. Like, that's so dumb.
Yeah, just being open to it, and receiving, that positive feedback and that praise. Because I mean, you're right. Like what and I never thought about it like that, Nikki. When you're saying like, the way I'm talking to myself, would I talk to a friend that way? I was like, well, no. And when you're talking so negatively about yourself, if you said that to somebody else, they're not going to be your friend anymore. So why would you say that to yourself? You're the one person that you are truly accountable to. Why would you talk to yourself that way when you are, going out of your way to pump up other people?
Exactly. And, I mean, I think that, like we were kind of chatting about before we started recording, I think that, taking that personal accountability for your own health, for your own fitness. I mean, one of the things that I've said many times to many different people is, like, the only thing that I am in control of is literally myself right here, right now, in this moment. Like, I am in control of nothing else. And so it's like, you have to take that same thought and that same mindset into like our own health and fitness and well-being. It's like, nobody can do it for you. Nobody can do it for me. If you want to be the best version of you, you have to put in the work to do that. You have to figure out what works for you. And I have always said, that being selfish in those ways of taking care of yourself, that is not a bad thing, because I know I'm not at my best as a daughter, as a sister, as a leader, as a friend, if I'm treating myself like shit and not taking care of myself. So it's like, it's kind of like, I do this for me, but I also do it to be the best me for all the other aspects of my life and all my other responsibilities.
Absolutely. And, as I reflect back to everything that I've done in these, the last year and a half or so, like I can remember, again, the things that I, tell myself, or like, when I was still kind of going to the gym a little bit, I'd see these other guys that were my age or like a year old, older, that are in great shape. And I'll be like, must be nice.
Right.
Or like, gosh, does this guy even work? And the answer is yes, they did. Yes, they did. And they were probably super successful at what they were doing. And I, in their employment. And that is how I felt all those years that I was in shape. And then I got out of routine, and then I wasn't thinking that way. And because I wasn't feeling good, I wasn't feeling my best. I'd forgot the importance of that. And, I did not, I wanted to make changes for a number of reasons, but one of them was I did not believe that I was low energy. And I still don't, when I look back at that time, I wasn't low energy, but I didn't feel great.
Yeah.
But I didn't even know it.
Right.
But I know it now. I know it took me it didn't even take that long. I'd maybe dropped the first 20 pounds and had, really kind of dried out and not had a whole lot of alcohol. I'd be like, man, I got a different level of awareness. I've got a different level of self-awareness. There's a feeling that I've got that I cannot describe. And you know what? It's energy, it's positivity. And I feel great. And that's, you're, talking about like accepting compliments and like, people tell me like, wow, Wes, like you look really great. I'm like, thank you so much. I appreciate that, because it's been freaking hard. But what I also tell them as I go, but I always tell them like, hey, I feel great. And, that's like, to me, that is, even more important. And I'm just able to attack the day and, with a different level of confidence and well-being. I'm not carrying this extra weight. I'm not afraid. I'm not looking for the right shirt to try to hide this gut. And I just am able to approach things more positively. And when stuff goes sideways, and it does all the time, it feels like it rolls off a little bit, a little bit easier,
No, I think that that's really true. I mean, I'm sure you know Ryan Serhant because he got really popular on $1 Million Listing, and he's a big.
Oh yeah, that's probably the third time I've heard his name today.
Oh, how funny! Yeah, so I mean, I just love him. But I remember I follow him, and he used to post a lot more on stories than he does now. But I remember one of the things he was an early morning workout guy.
Yeah,
and I remember him saying, and it really stuck with me. He said, "I get up and I do my workout, and that's going to be the hardest thing that I do all day. And I feel like if I can get up and I can do that first, then anything else that comes my way throughout the day, he's like, I'm going to be able to figure it out, and I'm going to be able to handle it, and it's not going to be that bad." And that mindset really has stuck with me as, I continue to get up and get my workouts in. And then I think, okay, like this does affect how I manage the curveballs that come my way throughout the day and the different challenges that arise out of nowhere. And I'm like, all right, we got to figure this out, or we got to handle this. It is a different level of just being, because I've already accomplished that task.
And it's accomplishing the task, but it's also how the way that task makes you feel. Like as we're talking about this, I'm reminded of a trip that we went on in Hawaii. Kids' spring break or winter break, whatever. Last February-ish or something. And like we got in super late. It was probably midnight Hawaii time, so it's really like 3 a.m. West Coast. And the kids are wrecked and I'm wrecked and we got a terrible night's sleep. And like, I did not get up that next morning, I mean, hey, I'm going to allow myself to sleep in, but like, the kid, like that next day, you didn't sleep well. Like I was cranky, and I was cranky with my kids, and I probably wasn't as nice to my wife as I should have been. And, I just said, hey, you know what? Like I am off. Like I'm feeling off. Like, can I just go get 30 minutes? I want to go sweat this out. Yeah. And she's like, if you think that's going to change how you go for it.
She's like, take an hour.
Yeah. She's like, please. She's like, do whatever you need to do. Just go. Yeah. And I did. And it totally reset where I was at. And that was, how I was feeling. Still jet lagged, but not cranky and, not being an a-hole dad to my kids.
Hey, endorphins are real. Like endorphins are real. And they are, our natural body, happy drug or happy pill. I mean, there's nothing like that endorphin release to feel like, okay, hey, that was good. Wow, I feel great. Yeah.
Right. So I'm kind of like, and that's what going back to the routine, and that's why I'm there in the mornings. One, it's to kind of set my day, because the hardest part is showing up to the gym.
Yeah.
Whether it's your home gym or your gym, that you've done the hardest part there. And then that probably is the hardest part of your day. And I'm just, I know that if I don't get it done in the morning, it's probably not happening.
Yeah.
There is a slight chance that I sneak it in some other time, but I've learned that it's like, if I let it push to the afternoon, then it's probably not going to happen. And that's no longer acceptable to me, because I know the person that I can be when I'm in routine, and I'm a better version of myself, when I am better husband, better dad, better business owner, hopefully I think a better boss,
Yeah,
they're gone. So I don't get the peanut gallery chiming in today, but I at least feel like it.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think that there's all these things to be said for it, and I know that it's not easy, and so I really commend you for taking that first step, and I relate to that feeling, because that's kind of the feeling that I've had recently, not so much with my physical fitness, but more with just, I can finally physically feel, even though this never can actually happen, but those saying I got out of my own way, or oh, you're standing in your own way. Well, obviously we can never truly stand in front of ourselves. However, I finally got to a point, and I don't know when I felt like this before, or if I even ever have, but I finally feel like I'm out of my own way. And I think that was the catalyst for me to finally get this podcast out in the world, and for me to do some other things that I've been working on. It's like, I no longer feel like there's anything in front of me holding me back. And it's all, we all have to get there in our own times to accomplish whatever it is that we want to accomplish. But it kind of really sounds like you had that moment when you were at your doctor's office with that and like looking at the photo from the 4th of July and kind of going, I'm going to get out of my own way and I'm going to figure this out because I know I can.
It just became super clear to me what I needed to do, even though I already knew it. It was like, okay, I get it now. I know I had tried everything else. I tried everything else except the one thing that deep down I knew that was going to actually make change.
Yeah.
And I avoided it because it was hard. It was the hardest thing that I could think of, to do. And, I don't think I was out of my own way then at that point, but I at least knew what needed to be done. And I had a formula on how, on how to get there. And then after that, it was really about having a plan, but I think even more so, creating healthier habits. And, I started stripping down like, okay, like what are some of the healthier habits, that I need to, that I need to adapt. And that's something that I continue to work on, but at this point, they are habits. It's like, yeah, do I get off track, on the diet? Of course I do. That's, but if I can be 80% of the way there, throughout the week, then I'm probably, I'm still on the right track.
Absolutely. One of my favorite fitness people to follow is a guy named Jordan Syatt. And he's really, his whole thing is really about calories. And his whole thing is when anytime somebody asks him, how do I lose weight? He's always like calorie deficit. And he's done challenges with himself. I think he did one challenge one time where he ate at McDonald's or he ate a Big Mac every day, but he remained in a calorie deficit. And he was like, look, I'm doing this to show you that yes, the quality of your calories matter, but they also, if you are in a calorie deficit, you can still lose weight regardless of what you're eating. And so he ended up losing weight over the course of this month by eating a Big Mac every day because he still was in a calorie deficit. Now he was like, I don't recommend this. He goes, but my point is that like, you don't have to be perfect every single day. And so people will he'll do question and answer boxes all the time. And I really appreciate them. And without fail, somebody will always ask and he always answers it because I think he realizes how important and how many people's minds get like screwed up by this. They'll say, oh my gosh, I'm going on vacation for a week. Like, what should I do? And his answer will always be, go on vacation and have fun. Have a pina colada. Enjoy the food. Enjoy where you are. Taste it all. And then when you get back on track.
Right.
And then he's also like, look, you didn't make all of your progress in 1 week's time. You're not going to lose all of your progress in 1 week's time. So like enjoy life, live your life, but then get back on track when you're back at home. And I love that because it is so true. I mean, I went to Europe this summer and my mom and I were really good about getting in the gym or going on a walk or going on a run, doing whatever, wherever we were. But I was more mindful on this trip than I think I ever have been about how much I was eating. I wasn't concerned with what I was eating because I was in Italy. I was going to eat pasta. I was in Greece. I was going to eat
it's what you're there for. You got to experience that.
Things, but I wasn't going to be overeating, and I still drank wine every single day because I tried to tell myself before I left, I'm like, I'm going to try to not drink very much on this trip. And it's like, come on, I'm on vacation for the first time in a year. Like I want to out
of the country,
But I mean, I still came back for the first time ever after being in Europe, and I had not gained, 5, 6, 7 pounds. And I was like, yes, like I figured it out. I can do this.
Right. That's nice. That's nice. Well, you were probably walking around a ton too.
Oh, that too.
Just seeing the sights. And, when we vacation or if I'm traveling for business, like it's never a free for all for me. But again, I still want to eat all the things. Like when I was down in San Diego, 3 weekends ago, like I hit my spots. I went to Santana. I got the California burrito. I feel like they knew that I was coming back after a long time and feel like it came out like 1.5 pounds instead of a pound. And I ate that whole thing on the ride back, back to the airport. But I still come prepared. Like I actually traveled down there. Like I had my protein bars, I had my jerky. Like we had, and actually, I think stopped at the grocery store, got some supplies. So like, so, you don't use, so I'm not making bad choice after bad choice. And when I first started, down this road of like getting a hold of nutrition, I started meal prepping. So I had found that like, okay, I can make pretty good decisions for myself, like when things are easy. So how can I make this easy for myself? I'm like, well, I can have the chicken, I can have the ground turkey, I can have these bags of salad, I can have, I can have the hard boiled eggs, whatever it is that I'm going to eat. I can have my bags of beef, jerky or turkey. If I've got that in front of me, I'm set. I can make that right decision. But like when I'm not prepared, that's when I get off track, because then I'll push it till late in the day. I'm like, oh my God, I'm starved. And then all of a sudden I'm like taking a right turn, into, a fast food, drive through.
Yeah, sure.
Because I was not prepared.
I mean, it is so true. I mean, and especially in this day and age when we're so used to convenience and we're so used to so many things just being available. I mean, think about it. I mean, I heard my, I don't want to say her name because she'll start listening, but I heard her beep a few minutes ago, and it's because I ordered something literally last night. It's probably sitting on my doorstep right now,
Right.
And it's just like, okay, it's like we're so used to this instant gratification, instant convenience. Everything we want can be delivered to our homes. We don't even have to leave our houses. And so I think that's also something that's interesting when you talk about getting your personal like health and fitness in line. It doesn't happen overnight. It takes time. It takes work. It takes commitment. It takes those habits. It takes all of those things. And it's just nothing happens overnight. And it's kind of like all those sayings that have been around forever, like good things come to those who work and wait. And if it was easy, everybody would do it. But I mean, there's a lot of truth behind those.
Yeah, there's truth in a lot of them, and that's why those sayings are out there, because somebody else has experienced it, and it's not something that happens overnight. But there's such an amazing compound effect, right? Of starting to make healthier choices, and like I wouldn't recommend trying to do more than one or two at a time, because it's hard to master more than that. I think there's something in what is Atomic Habits. There's is a book that I've read a couple times, and there's a chapter on habit stacking, and it's like, you've got, if you are consistent, for 45 days, I'm probably getting this wrong, like with one new habit, like you can get there and you can probably master it. If you add a second habit during the same time, you've got like an 80% chance of mastering both. Now you stack on a third or a fourth, you drop below like 60 and 50%.
Wow.
So, the idea behind it is like, take one or two things until you've got that down.
Yeah.
And then that becomes part of your routine. And that's no longer one or two of your things. It's what you do. It's a part of you. And then, then you go add another one or two.
Yeah.
And you keep doing it as long as as long as there's something that you want to change.
Yeah. I love
about yourself.
And I mean, I think that's so true, because if you hear all the time where there's people who, they want to make a change, but it's like, it requires a lot of little changes. And then they just like, they say, well, okay, starting on Monday, I'm going to do X, Y, Z, A, B, and C. And it's like, but no, like, and that's exactly what you're saying.
You're not doing one or two now. How are you going to do 5 to 6? It's not human nature.
Exactly.
I think people will they'll probably set themselves up for, failure if they're trying to take on too much more than that. Or if they can manage it, they are just simply far more disciplined than your average human is.
Exactly.
And there's some people out there that are. I am not one of them. I have to learn the hard way, and then I have to take accountability, and I have to experience that pain myself, and sometimes longer than others, before I can take some accountability and start to make some changes.
Well, I mean, I think it's so great, all that you've accomplished. What would you say is like the biggest learning, or the biggest like change and positive takeaway that you've got to from this point?
The biggest positive takeaway. Oh man, the way that I feel. The way that I feel. I have a different, we were talking about this earlier. I think it's not yeah, I know that I look different. And it's not that I look different. I probably look a lot like the guy that you used to know.
Yeah.
At least more so.
You have sun visor on, I'd be like, are we?
Oh, I almost forgot about the sun visor, but you're right. I think that was glued to my head for about 2 years straight. So it's not the way that I look, although I know that I look different and I am comfortable with the way that I look. I'm comfortable being at the pool all summer without my shirt on for the first time in years, but it's the way that I feel. And like I said earlier, I didn't know that I was low energy, or maybe I wasn't low energy, but just the energy that I do have, is it's transcending into other parts of my life. I think that, me working here in real estate, you working in real estate as well.
Yeah.
We're coming into something.
Oh yeah.
We're not coming in, we're in it. And there's more to come. Yeah. And I've been through a big market shift in the past, 2008. And that's really where I cut my teeth. I can't say that I'm excited about going through something big, potentially big again, but you know what? I'm prepared. Right. And I've got the energy for it, and I've got the mindset for it. And I know that I would not be feeling this way, that I don't think that I would be the leader that my team needs me to be. I'm not the leader that my family needs me to be if I had not made these changes. Because it's so simple, so funny. Like one of the guys, I have a lot of guys, some girls, mainly guys, a lot of guys like me too. They used to have it and then they lost it. And then they're reaching out it's like, how do I get it back? One of them has helped me for years with real estate. And it's like, and you know what he's telling me? He's telling me the basics. Yeah. It's like, you got to do the basics. And he's like, and he's asking me for some help, some tips. I'm like, I am at your service. I'm giving him the absolute basics, right back. But it's something that I have experienced but nothing is new. It's not anything that there's absolutely nothing that's new that I'm doing. And there's nothing new that I am telling him. Right. He's just willing to receive it. And it's no different in business. It's like, I've made some changes in my personal life, my health, my fitness. And, I saw some of this coming in real estate, and I started 6 months ago, making these changes too. It's no different. It's small changes over time, done consistently, have massive results and wide ripples, throughout your life.
Yeah, no, I love that. I think that, what you were saying, how it's like the ripple effect, right? And you're saying how it makes you a better leader at work. It makes you a better leader for your family. Your confidence is clearly, you're like, hey, we could talk for a whole other hour on the real estate market and everything that's going on and what the next 6 months.
Next episode.
Next episode. Exactly. But I mean, that's like so true though. But it's like, you're like, hey, I'm thinking about this. I'm going to figure it out. Whatever comes, I know I'll be able to handle it. And it's just that extra level, because look at what you've accomplished. Look at what you're prepared for. So all of those things together, I think, are so important, but it's just everything ties together. So.
And it's why, it's kind of going back, go back to that conversation we had earlier when I wasn't making fun of the guys that were in great shape at the gym, but, I don't think I was jealous, but I certainly maybe a bit envious or something. And I'd make excuses this is a priority for them where work and family is not. And it goes back to, it's all intertwined. And if I am to fall out of this routine, I know I'm not the best version of myself.
Yeah. Exactly.
And that is, that's for my family, that's for my friends. That is for, what I do in real estate, the people that rely on me, my clients. And I didn't look at it like that before. I looked at it like, if you put yourself first, you're being selfish. And then now I kind of look at it like, if you don't take care of yourself, if you do not put that oxygen mask on first in the airplane, you don't put that on first, you have zero chance of helping anybody else.
Exactly.
So put that mask on, and take control so you can help others, or you just help yourself. It's whatever it is that you're after.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think I love that, because I also think too that sometimes, like this got me thinking of this when you said about, seeing other people in the gym and being like, oh, well, they probably do this or they do that. And you kind of like justify, like we're so good at justifying things out.
That's the word I was looking for.
Yeah. Like, oh, I'm going to justify why I'm not there because of X, Y, or Z. But I also think one of the things that I've been talking a little bit more about lately is it's like, nobody is paying enough attention to anybody else. Like, we talked about being selfish, right? But it's also like everybody is selfish. At the end of the day, you're not thinking about anybody else.
It's human nature. It's me, myself, and I. And yeah, of course you think about other people, but not nearly as much as you think about yourself, exactly. Your existence, your well-being, in life, because nobody else is going to take care of you. Very rarely, like, you can count on yourself. That's it.
Count on yourself. And that's one of the things I said recently. I was like, just do it, because nobody's fucking paying enough attention and nobody cares. So just do what you want, do what works for you, start when you want. Don't feel like you're too late. Don't feel like somebody's ahead of you or oh, I should have done that years ago. Who fucking cares? Just fucking do it and then see what happens, because the time's going to pass anyway. So why not just start?
I'm hoping there's a lot of years left in life. And, I can remember a couple years ago, like, maybe not quite at like the peak weight I had, but just thinking, I'm like, God, this is it for me. Like this is what I've got. This is probably what I will be working through the rest of my life. And I can also remember thinking like, oh, okay, if that's it, if this is what I'm working, with the rest of my life probably, isn't going to be as long, because let's call it what it is. Big animals die faster.
Yeah.
They just do.
Yeah.
I see a lot of old guys at the gym. I don't see any big old guys at the gym.
Interesting. Yeah.
They're just,
I get it.
They're not there. So it's never too late. I had tons of those thoughts. This is too late. This is never going to happen. I can't believe that I allowed myself, to get here. But the truth is, like, muscle memory is also a hell of a thing.
Yeah.
Like it remembers, like, and if that's something that you had in the past and it's something that you want to get back to, like, if you're consistent enough, like, your body's going to remember, and it's eventually going to reward you.
Definitely. No, I totally love that, because, that what you just said about, just looking forward and saying, like, this is my life, like, this is where I'm at. That was like the whole premise for even this podcast and having these conversations, is talking with people who were sitting there and looking at their life, and whether it was a positive or a negative, right? Like, there's a lot of people who were like, hey, this was my life and it was great and I loved where we were at, and then this happened and now we're here. But in your case, you were kind of like, like, this is what I'm working with. This is what's going on. And I don't know how this is going to turn out. And then you chose to make the decision, and now you're on this path and you're like, wow, I have energy and I'm more confident and everything else is working better. And I'm a better this, I'm a better dad, I'm a better husband, I'm a better leader. That was my whole point in coming to have these types of discussions with all of these types of people. So thank you for sharing your story, because I love hearing it. I love seeing you thriving. I love, how motivating these types of conversations can be, especially in the health and fitness space, when, there's so much out there. It can be so daunting. It can be so overwhelming. And I think
especially in this influencer world that, that we live in. I'm just a guy. I'm a real estate agent, right?
Yeah.
You start, and there's nothing wrong with influencers. I follow a lot of them. There's some great stuff I've learned. There's some great stuff that I've learned, but I'm like, okay, here's this 33-year-old guy who's jacked. He's never been through what I've been through. He's never been out of shape. Like, what is this guy going to tell me? Like, he hasn't hit my challenges. Like we were saying earlier, it's just like, what podcasting is. These are real people. These are real stories. I'm in real estate. I'm not selling a plan. I've got nothing but what, I've got, no motivation here than to share a story, because I've been getting a lot of questions, and you'd be like, what have you done? How did you do this? I'm like, okay. I'm like, Nikki sent me an email, like, I'm going to do, to do this. I'm like, I'm going to do this. And this is something that I can share with people. Be like, here you go. Like, I had some notes I had written out, but it's not super, it's not super clear. It's like, but this is something I can share with others, and not that they can be inspired by it, but if they can learn something to think about, and if to make some positive changes, at the very least, hey, it's possible, because I know if I can do it, and if I can go from at a peak of 290 down to 213 this morning in a fairly short period of time, you can do it too, because it certainly was not on willpower, because I don't have a whole lot of that.
Well, you clearly do. I mean, you clearly.
I would argue
like discipline and willpower are different.
Discipline. I approach this as creating new habits.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's how I looked at it, because I mean, willpower wears out, but if you create habits, then you can create consistency, and that's where my success has been. Is the consistency. My goal is to do something every day, and it took me a very long time to push out this idea of my old meathead mentality that I need to go bang weights for an hour and max out super heavy. And if I don't do that, I haven't gotten a good workout. Once I got that finally out of my head and focused on, okay, well, I'm going to get my diet under control, but I'm also going to move my body in a significant way every single day. And that can be so different. That can be for 15 minutes. That can be for 60 minutes, but that it happens every single day. That's where the magic happens.
Yeah. Consistency over everything.
Yep.
It really is. It's getting in those habits so you can be consistent.
And just like right there, Nikki, it's like, we're talking about this with fitness, but that's life. That's business. That's my real estate business. That's anything. It is.
It's you marketing yourself in real estate. It's you, teaching your kids things. It's you're reading to your kids at night, doing whatever it is. It's the habits that create the consistency, that create, okay, now I'm doing this. And then you start seeing the positives come from it.
Yep.
I mean, I think that one of the things that I always try to, talk about, kind of like what I was saying a little bit before we recorded, like, I can only be the best version of me. So I'm never going to be, a 5'10", 5'11", size 00 runway model, but I can be the best version of me for my 5'6", body type and shape. And I think that that's so important, is that, you can't set your goals to be, I want to look like this person, or I want to be like that person. You have to focus on, okay, well, what's the best I can be for me? And then what kinds of goals am I going to create based on who I am and what my body looks like and what I want it to look like, or what I want it to be able to physically accomplish.
I think that's so important. And, it's all it's right in front of our face, and here we are talking about health and fitness and, following influencers. It's hard. We live in a society. It's hard not to compare yourselves, whether it is, body image, health and fitness, wealth, it's right there in front of our faces all day long. If you have a phone, which you do, and you are on social media, and you're probably on social media if you end up listening to this, because that's how you, because that's how you found it. Yeah. It's being the best version of yourself. And I can remember, like, when I was getting started and I started making some progress, I was like, okay, starting out there, at 270. And I was like, gosh, if I could just get down to 245, like that would be incredible. And, I didn't have this big audacious goal other than I need to get healthier, and I'm going to take it one step at a time. I'm going to see what I can do. I got to that first one. I was like, what if I got to 225?
Yeah.
That 225, 230. That was my college football playing weight. And I'm like, because I'm like, that guy could move. And like that was like peak fitness version. Like, is that possible? And then I got there. I'm like, okay, what's next? And then I got down probably to a weight that was, a little bit lower than just probably supernatural. I'm like, you know what? I think I want to eat a little bit more.
Right. Yeah.
I'm ready. Okay, I'm ready. I'm like, I did some of this. I think I want to eat a little bit more. And that was also like really when I started hitting the weights more consistently, again. And then what did I learn, but what did I rediscover? I just, rediscovered the importance of, building muscle again and getting stronger. Because as I'm building more muscle, I get to eat more. Totally. This is something I totally already knew, but again, had to learn it the hard way.
Well, and it's like you forget about it. I mean, my brother is really into fitness, and he has, he's also someone who has yo-yoed with his weight.
Yeah.
He loves a dessert. When I tell you this man loves a dessert, he has some.
That's my people right there.
Oh my gosh. I got to get him to come and talk to me sometimes and just tell some of the stories, because he has such great delivery, and he has some stories about eating desserts that like have me just rolling. But right now he's really, he's just thriving in all aspects of his life right now. And, he's been, in my ear for the past few months, like, do more weights. And I finally called him the other night and I was like, okay, I'm like, you were right about doing more weights. And he's like, how long have I been telling you this? I'm like, I know, I just like, I have like a very much hate relationship with doing weights. Like, I don't enjoy it, but when I'm done, I'm like, oh, I'm so glad I did that. So when I go in there and I do it, I'm like, just do it. And then when it's over, I'm like, okay, I'm so glad I did it. But
I don't think I've ever regretted a good workout. I've certainly had to talk myself into them. I've definitely talked myself out of them, but you never regret it once you do it. And if I could do things differently, I would. Like, I was doing a lot of cardio, and like really because when I was getting my diet strict, I didn't have a ton of energy. So like the idea of going and lifting weights, like that was tough. So like, I really started with walking, and then walking turned into kind of intervals of walking and running. And then I was losing a little bit more weight. And like, then I was running, and I was like, I remember this time when I was taking my son to this hockey exhibit. We had just gotten a new NHL team up here in Seattle, the Kraken. He wanted to go learn more about hockey. And it was at the Science Center. It was supposed to be this really cool thing. We're late. It's getting ready to like close down. And so like we start running. Like we're running to get there. My kid starts laughing. And I'm like, why are you laughing? He's like, you're running, Dad, you're running. I've never seen you run.
Oh my gosh.
And I was like, oh man, I'm like, we got a problem. Like we got a problem. So like running really became like a big thing for me. And I've run more. I bet I would gather that I've ran more in the last 16 months. Probably than I've ran. In my life, maybe, I don't know. Maybe that's both. I mean, but maybe, definitely the most, I've been a runner in the past, but that was to get, the San Diego's days. It's sunny out. It's sunny outside, Yeah, exactly. Boardwalk, 2 to 3 times a week, something like that. But yeah, I would, I still would have done, I like the way that running makes me feel. There's something about physically moving my body again. And now that I can do it, like, I wouldn't say that I'm addicted to it, but I want to keep that going. But I would have added more weights earlier. Because again, going back to what worked for me when I was in great shape is weightlifting was my primary.
Yeah.
And I still stayed lean. But I think as I started out with this, like really controlling the diet, I didn't have the energy to think about doing much more than, walking the dog for 2 to 3 miles.
Hey, but you know what? Walking, I think, is also severely underrated.
It is so underrated.
So important.
And that is when, if somebody's actually asking me for help, like one of the guys, especially in, my age range, I'm like, that's what I tell them. They're like, are you shitting me? Like, you want me to walk? I'm like, well, what are you doing right now? He's like, nothing. I'm like, well, good. Like, start, good. Start there.
Yeah. 100%. It is so important to just get out and move and get, I don't know, for me, it really helps my thoughts run. It helps me get organized. It helps me set goals, just to be out there moving and just thinking. And it's not like I'm power walking. Sometimes I'm just straight up just strolling through the neighborhood.
Right. You're moving, and you probably got a little bit better weather than I do, so you can do that a little bit longer, outside in your neck of the woods. Yeah. But I feel the same way. Like, walking, like if I can get 2 miles, I feel like that's kind of meditative for me, where that clears my head, decompresses, the stress. And if I can get 3 miles, I just got real cardio.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well,
and when I was rocking another 50 pounds, it felt like it even more.
Oh my gosh, I bet. Oh, well, this has been such a fun conversation. I love, hearing about what works for other people and how it really, at the end of the day, none of it is brand new. None of it is revolutionary. It's like you were saying, you're telling your friends, like, it's the simple things. It's the basics. It's the little things, but
it's the basics, but no. It is. It's absolutely the basics, but people don't want to hear about the basics because the basics usually require a lot of hard work in the form of consistency.
Yep.
And I think that that's what most resistance is in life, whether it's your health, whether it's fitness, something at work, relationships.
Yeah. You got to put in the work to have the success. 100%.
Nothing's going to change. Nothing's going to change overnight, but you can make changes. You can make a decision to change overnight.
Yes. Oh,
you just got to get to work.
You just got to get to work. I love it. Well, Wes, why don't you tell people how they can follow you, or if they're listening and they're in your area and they want a killer realtor to help them find a new home?
Oh, I want people to follow me from all over the place. But my website is sellwithwes.com. I thought this was going to be super easy for people because I sell houses and you should sell with Wes. But people come back and they're like, sell like a cell phone, CELL. It's weird. Anyways, my website is sellwithwes.com. You can get my social medias on Facebook. On Instagram, I am Fake Wes Jones. And as far as being counterculture, I think when I got my Instagram account in 2012, I didn't think that I would ever use it. And all of the people at the time, the famous people, they're like official so-and-so, the real so-and-so. I'm like, I'm going to be the fake one. And I'm never going to get on this. I'm going to be the fake Wes Jones, and I'm going to be, I'm never going to use this platform again. And here we are. And that's
10 years later.
Here we are. Yeah. 10 years later. And it's where I predominantly do a lot of my social media, and people always ask me, why are you the fake Wes Jones? I'm like, here you go.
Yeah. Oh my God. I love it. That is so awesome. Yeah. Well, everybody, as always, thank you for listening. And, for me, you can find me at Round 2 Podcast on Instagram and TikTok, and new episodes come out every Monday. So thank you for listening. Thank you for sharing. And as always, if you have anybody or yourself who would like to come on and share your story and talk about what has gone on in your path and your life and all the things that you have learned, please reach out to me and we can set up a time to chat. Have a great day.
Thanks, Nikki. We had a blast.
Thanks, Wes.